Okay, let's talk some fights, Frank, here. So this past weekend, basically two big things happened in the world of mixed martial arts. Derrick Lewis knocked out Travis Brown, and Matt Mitrione got knocked out by a kidney stone. Let's talk about Travis Brown and Derrick Lewis first. You saw the fight. It matched up, I believe, the number 8 and number 9, or number 7 and number 8 ranked heavyweights, respectively, with Travis being one notch above Derrick. Derrick upsets Travis, finishes him in the second round. We'll talk about his post-fight comments in a moment, but first, what were your thoughts on the fight itself? Did it surprise you at all?
A little bit. I thought that Travis had a great game plan coming out. He has a great front kick, that teep off the backside, snap kick, thrust kick. Different styles of martial arts have different terms for it. Pendulum kick, I've heard them call it, or Jackson's. But he does a great job of it. A lot of the guys there with Winklejohn have developed it to a high level. You see Carlos Condit was good at it. John Jones is very good at it. And Travis himself is actually, he had a knockout over Alistair Overeem with that shot. Brought it right up to the chin and stunned him and was able to finish him with hands. So using that kick and using his distance, he was able to really maximize the fact that he's well-rounded over Derrick Lewis and trying to keep it from being a close-up boxing match where Derrick would then not have the advantage, because I don't think hands-wise he's any more technical than Travis, but two big heavyweights throwing at each other, anything could occur and anything can happen when one lands. So it becomes a coin toss. And so if you're the better martial artist, you kind of want to keep it out of that coin toss realm where you don't want it to be a scramble. You want it to be a drawn-out technical battle. So I thought when Travis was using all of his height and range, as being 6'8", his mobility as an athlete coming from the world of basketball from college, I thought he was doing a great job, and very obvious that he had hurt Derrick with a couple of those body shots. And I thought he was doing a good job staying patient, and I think that he started just becoming a little too comfortable, I think, with the success he was having. And then he threw what we call, a lot of times in martial arts, one of the kicks naked, meaning that there was no hands in front of it. And that's okay to do if you're at kicking range and you're not within hands. But once you were within hand range, in which he was, he threw that kick, and then at that point, Derrick crowded in and was able to throw a shot with his hands and landed and stunned Travis, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. He rocked Travis pretty bad at the end of the first round. Travis was able to recover, and then we saw more of it in the second round. I thought Travis would get back on his game plan and try to keep him at a distance and beat up the body some more, especially knowing, let's face it, Derrick Lewis is extremely entertaining. I think he has a lot of upside. Conditioning is not one of his strong suits.
Yeah.
Even after the fight that only lasted for a round and a half, he had to lay on the canvas for a good 2 or 3 minutes to recover. So his wind was obviously, something that's not great. So as every second of that clock ticked down, he was losing advantage that he'd have in his power. Speaking of Derrick. So I thought he would stay at a distance. And then Travis, when he got hurt again, he really showcased that I've always kind of thought a problem with some people's training. And Travis, it really became indicative of that night, is that, Travis does train all the other realms of MMA. He trains the grappling, he trains jiu-jitsu, but he never trains it from an offensive point of view. He always trains it, well, let me get away from the wrestler, let me get away from the jiu-jitsu specialist, let me keep it up in the stand-up realm. Well, if you're one of the top 2 or 3 strikers in your weight class, it's not the worst strategy to have. Travis isn't. And I think as a heavyweight, even more so, JDS is probably the best boxer in the heavyweight weight class, and I watched him get knocked out with a left hook by Alistair Overeem. So I think having more tools offensively in your box is something that Travis really needs to add. And he has the right training partners, the right camps, and the right attitude. And he trains extremely hard. But I think, again, having trained with Travis, he's always trying to get away from that and bring it back into a striking realm. Well, he was in a fight where he got rocked and he needed to fall back on his grappling. He locked up that body lock, and basically pulled Derrick on top of him into a mount and was able to position back into half guard. And from there, his half guard had no offense to it. Travis's half guard in MMA is very much of a get back up to my feet. And in that situation, he didn't want to get back up to his feet. He was rocked. He probably would work on some sweeps, some reversals, and be able to move around from there would have done him better. His offense in the ground was no better than really Derrick's, except for his defense is better. But that really wasn't what was causing the problem. So that was the glaring difference of what I seen that if Travis goes home, he needs to work on. And then Derrick, self-admittedly, needs to work on other aspects of the game too. His wrestling, his jiu-jitsu, but, he doesn't make any bones about it. He's very honest, which was actually very entertaining to hear, his honesty with it, that, he hits hard, which, it's a great attribute to have, but it's not an uncommon one in the heavyweight division. Mm-hmm. And hopefully now he'll start benefiting by spreading out there. It kind of goes hand in hand. Here he's going to have some success. He's going to have some popularity. So in turn, he's going to have the finances and the draw. People who are going to be better at grappling or teaching the other aspects of MMA are going to be more inclined to help him out and be a part of his camp, because in turn he has more money and he's going to have a lot more media attention.
So let's go back to the teep kick for a second, because I think that is a very misleading thing for a lot of people who are watching that haven't experienced it. Now, if you're wondering what we're talking about, it's the kicks that Derrick Lewis claimed were really only an issue because he needed to make an emergency trip to the restroom. That's basically what he was saying. But that was a way of, you were saying, of covering up basically that he was impacted by the body damage.
And I think it was a much more entertaining way of answering it.
It was.
The question was asked very boringly by Brian Stan that, you were hit to the body and you look like you were hurt. Well, no shit, Sherlock. A guy who was 6'8" just put his foot through my stomach, and I put my arms around my belly. Yeah, I was hurt. I think everybody, and even someone on life support, could have realized that I was hurt. So I think that, he could have probably maybe angled the question to be more along the lines of, you were hurt. What was your plan to try to overcome that? Were you thinking that maybe he would stop throwing the kick, or were you going to jam it up? Or what did your corner say to you in between to help try to identify how to conquer, or to overcome that, stating out that it was a problem is the same kind of commentary that now that I do more broadcasting, I see is so just boring. Oh, he hit him with the left hand. I'm like, really, dude? That's what we're paying you to sit there, is to call out what I just saw with my own eyes? Like, why don't you explain in a little bit more depth what's going on? What setup led to that? What's the other guy trying to do to avoid that? Is it a breakdown? In which status? Who's that going? I think a little bit more in depth, more than just being, you realize that I have television now, right? This isn't a radio broadcast where I need you just to describe what you're seeing.
Right. It's not like the 1930s.
No.
Down goes the champ. Down goes the champ.
And he lands a right hand. Well, on radio, I needed you to tell me that.
Yeah.
Now we have high def television, 4K, you name it. I can see that he hit him with the left hand. We all saw it.
So, but with the kick itself, the thing is, and this is where your analysis is very helpful, because I think to a lot of people that see that, it looks like what he did was he poked Derrick Lewis in the tummy with his toes. Now, I know there's more to it than that,
a lot to
but in a flash, you understand, that's kind of what it looks like at a glance. It's not, I think a lot of people associate a more devastating kick with like the top of your foot or even your heel, if I were to slam my whole heel into your stomach. But you're saying that when you receive that, it's
actually
deceptively
the ball of your foot,
painful.
what's happening, and how they've changed the kick around a little bit and call it more of a pendulum. In Thai boxing, they call it a teep, right? Mm-hmm. And it's more of a distance gauger. And if you watch a traditional Thai stylist throw that type of kick, the front kick, a teep, again, I have different people, sometimes they call it a thrust kick in karate. Usually the knee comes up extremely high and then the person thrusts the foot out. And it's more akin to an action of me trying to kick a door down. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of power in it, but I'm trying to create distance. So if someone was charging me, you could teep them with the flat of the foot, and you push them backwards.
Kind of like a foot jab?
Right.
Yeah.
But not a foot jab, because the jab is more akin to what Travis and John and a lot of the guys now that are doing more of the pendulum type of kick. What it is more back into more traditional karate, where it's a snap kick. So what they're doing is they're aiming their knee, and they're not bringing their knee above it. So they're not using their glute. They're not using a thrusting motion. They're not stomping on your chest. What they're doing is they're aiming their foot, and then the foot swings under, and it comes towards you almost the same way if they were going to snap kick maybe a soccer ball or kick a punt. And then at the last second, they might push their hips forward ever so slightly to redirect the speed of the foot that's locking out from the quadricep. And then as they curl the toes back, the ball of your foot thrusts right into the organs. And it's extremely fast kick that at the last second, when you hit, your skeletal frame is now in line. So now it has your weight behind it, and it causes it's a blast, and it shocks the organs. And that's the problem, is usually the thrust kick's slow and heavy and strong, where this one's kind of like getting hit with a baseball. So when it hits you, it causes it, especially if it gets hit in the midsection, the diaphragm could seize up, and then everybody's had their wind knocked out of them, can relate to what's happening to Derrick Lewis. So in reality, the diaphragm goes into contraction, it spasms. So now when you spaz, your diaphragm is responsible for exiting and entering the oxygen out of your lungs. You have no muscles around your lungs. The diaphragm is actually what allows you to breathe. So that smooth muscle tissue, when it receives that shock, causes all the air to basically crush out of your lungs. So that's when you've seen Derrick bending over. He was actually having a hard time trying to take a deep breath. His body's fighting itself, and he was able to recover, which good on him. And then and to the benefit of all of us, made one hell of a funny reply on what was really going on.